My name is Athena Hollins. I represent District 66B in St. Paul, and I'm here today to advocate for House File 2215, which is a state-run low-cost auto insurance program called Lifeline. It's a solution that would provide significant benefits to all Minnesotans. First and foremost, a state-run program would ensure that all residents have access to affordable auto insurance. For many families and individuals, car insurance premiums can be an insurmountable financial burden, and one that cannot be avoided as it is the only form of insurance that's required by the state. A state-sponsored option would make this essential coverage more accessible for those struggling to make ends meet, and it ensures that no one is left uninsured simply because they can't afford private insurance premiums. Additionally, Lifeline Insurance Program could provide stability and fairness in the marketplace. We know that private insurance companies determine the cost of their premiums using a variety of measures, including zip codes and credit scores. In fact, where you live and how much money you have could potentially have bigger impacts on what you pay for insurance than your driving record. By having a low-cost auto insurance program, we could regulate pricing to ensure that premiums remain affordable, making it a predictable and reliable option for drivers. Moreover, such a program could focus on the well-being of its citizens, prioritizing quality coverage over profit, which many private insurers are driven by. This would create a program and a system that serves the people rather than maximizing corporate earnings. Finally, reducing the number of uninsured drivers on the road is good for all Minnesotans. It creates safer roads, and fewer tickets for uninsured driving reduces the burden on police, the court system, and families. In conclusion, a state-run low-cost auto insurance program would protect our residents from financial hardship, create fairer and more stable marketplace, and ensure the well-being of drivers as a top priority. It's a forward-thinking solution that would benefit all members of our community. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Katia Cepeda, and I serve as the Director of Advocacy, Community Engagement, and Equity for the St. Paul and Minnesota Foundation. And I am here in support of the Minnesota Lifeline Program, House File 2215. One of our top legislative priorities at the foundation is housing. The city of St. Paul has identified zip code 55106 as having one of the highest eviction rates in the region, with $53 being the average amount owed in unpaid rent. The rising cost of living is a key factor impacting the rise of eviction rates in this area. Through our emergency grant program, we know that just the slightest interruption from a repair bill to a parking ticket can completely derail someone's life. In 2024, auto insurance rates in Minnesota were projected to jump by 61%, making this the biggest increase in the country. Unfortunately, this zip code 55106 was also identified as having the highest auto insurance rate in the state. As you have heard from others, basic liability insurance is priced on non-driving factors such as level of education, marital status, gender, and credit scores. Making this one-time appropriation to the self-sustaining program would not only make Minnesota's roads safer, but would also help cut this discriminatory practice towards our low-income residents. People are being evicted over $53 in debt. So if Lifeline program can save people $100 a month under insurance, that could make a big impact. I want to take this opportunity to thank Representative Hollins and Senator Putman for championing this bill. And I also want to thank Representative Herr for allowing House File 2215 to be heard in her committee yesterday. I will now pass it on to Munira.
Thank you so much. My name is Munira Muhammad. I'm with the ACLU of Minnesota, an organization devoted to civil liberties and the Constitution. We're here in support of this bill by Representative Hollins that would create an affordable auto insurance program. While this may not seem like a civil liberties issue, it actually has many implications for Minnesotans' personal rights. A low-cost auto insurance program would alleviate the widespread discrimination imposed by insurance companies whose premiums are set by practices that have discriminatory effects index, including zip code, credit scores, as well as gender and other factors. These factors will be used by insurance companies to set rates, determine premium costs, and decide who gets coverage. And criteria like zip code and credit scores have been shown to be disproportionately increasing the rates for Black and brown people across this country. It's no surprise that these biased practices negatively impact low-income Minnesotans who are being priced out of the insurance market, even those with excellent driving records. The lack of coverage also leads to increase in public safety for all. Maintaining this fundamentally unfair system of coverage will always lead to a pool of individuals who must risk driving uninsured to keep employment, attend school, and go about daily life. This can cause dangerous motor vehicle behavior that puts everyone's safety in jeopardy, as well as increased interactions between motorists and police officers that could lead to unjustified use of force. And because driving uninsured in Minnesota is a misdemeanor, this situation could quickly snowball into financial crisis. Driving uninsured could get your license suspended and ushered in an avalanche of tickets that the driver cannot afford, even perhaps jail time. The ACLU of Minnesota has always opposed this two-tier justice system and wealth-based discrimination. Being poor or low income should not automatically leave you uninsured and racked with unpayable fines and fees. Put simply, if we are going to impose criminal punishments on people who drive without insurance, we have an obligation to ensure that those people have the ability to obtain insurance. It is completely unfair and unjust that the state government would create a whole web of statutes and laws with the steepest penalties, yet not acknowledge that poverty plays a role in people's ability to follow the law. And we want to stress how unbelievably disproportionate and extreme the consequences can be for not having insurance coverage. It could escalate into serving jail time or even more extreme, deportation. Those who are not U.S. citizens could potentially be facing deportation and expulsion from the country. All this upheaval simply because people cannot afford the ever-rising cost of car insurance. The ACLU of Minnesota strongly believes an affordable state auto insurance program would improve public safety, alleviate financial hardships, and protect all Minnesotans from systemic discrimination. Thank you to Representative Hollins and all who worked on this bill.
Hello, I'm Dave Snyder, and I'm the statewide FAME Program Director at West Central Minnesota Communities Action in Alexandria and Elbow Lake. FAME stands for Family Assets for Independence in Minnesota, and we partner with a network of over 20 nonprofits across the state that provide financial coaching and a triple match savings account to help FAME participants buy a first home, start a small business, pay college tuition, start a college savings plan for a dependent, or buy a reliable vehicle. I tell our financial coaches that they are critically important, both because they get to work with clients for up to 2 years to build credit, deal with debt, sharpen their budgets as they prepare to get the triple match, but also because over years of working with community members on the front lines, these coaches have insights into the obstacles that prevent so many Minnesotans from achieving financial stability and building generational wealth. Our practitioners identified skyrocketing auto insurance as a major factor preventing their clients from getting ahead, which is why we chose as a network to support the Lifeline auto insurance bill. I'll close by sharing 3 quick impact stories that I received from coaches in our network from Minneapolis and from Moorhead. First, Jay just received notice for her auto insurance renewal that it would be $650 a month for her to carry insurance. As a single adult who is just entering the workforce, she doesn't qualify for much in the way of public benefits because the job that she just got hired into would put her over income. Between her rent and insurance, she is paying around $1,800 without covering any other expenses. With this insurance payment, she is looking at having around $400 left each month to cover food, necessities, the actual car loan payment, etc. Second story from Moorhead. One client of mine isn't able to find affordable car insurance because of several citations. Because of this, he isn't able to work in the fields that he has experience with. As a CDL driver, an Uber driver, he has no choice but to continue paying his bills through county benefits and doesn't have a way to become self-sufficient without car insurance as his first step. Last client, their auto insurance lapsed because she couldn't cover that bill that particular month. She happened to get into a car accident while uninsured. Now she's had to go to court, will pay restitution for many years to the person whose car was damaged. She had difficulty being able to find an affordable vehicle, bought one with a salvage title, not disclosed to her, and then couldn't afford the registration. So I want to close by thanking Representative Hollins, our chief author, Senator Putnam, Representative Smith, and also Representative Matt Norris for your support and presence. Thank you. Turn it over to Anna.
Hi, my name is Anna Odegaard. I'm with the Fines and Fees Justice Center, and I just want to start by thanking Representative Hollins and our co-authors here, Representative Smith and Norris, for supporting this bill. It's so important. The bill was heard yesterday morning in the House Commerce Committee, and there were some concerns raised by representatives of the insurance industry and from the Minnesota Association for Justice. And because we ran out of time in the committee, we weren't able to address some of those concerns, and we wanted to do that here for just a minute. The concern that was raised was a concern whether establishing the Lifeline program might drive up premiums for folks in the commercial market. 2.5 cents is the increase to commercial market policies that is indicated by the cost estimates for the Lifeline program. This derives from a small additional administrative cost to commercial insurers that we assume they will pass on to their customers, plus a 10-cent surcharge per 6-month policy to support outreach and marketing for the Lifeline program, because you have to know this affordable insurance is available in order to enroll in it. I know that insurance companies have been raising the alarm that somehow creating access to affordable insurance for your neighbors will cause your rates to skyrocket. So we do want folks to know that the actual math supports a 2.5 cent per month increase to other premiums. In exchange for that 2.5 cents, the Lifeline program will lower uninsured driving rates in Minnesota. More people paying premiums and maintaining liability coverage keeps costs down for everyone. So we expect that initial 2.5 cent increase to be more than offset by savings in the long run. The second concern we heard that we wanted to address, a very legitimate concern of whether or not the Lifeline policy will be adequate coverage for drivers. We do want to just underscore the fact that this program is really targeted for folks that have been priced out of the insurance market by those skyrocketing rates that you heard Mr. Snyder talking about. Folks that are driving uninsured or are not driving and therefore sacrificing opportunities for income and taking care of their family right now. For anyone who's currently uninsured, the Lifeline policy is an incredible increase in both financial and legal safety. But it's not just that it's better than being uninsured. Every state has their own minimum insurance requirements, and Minnesota minimum insurance requirements are third highest in the country, meaning anyone purchasing minimum insurance in Minnesota has more insurance than folks with minimum coverage in 47 other states. It's true that the Lifeline policy allows people who have comprehensive medical coverage for all of their household members to opt out of one component of those minimum coverage requirements in Minnesota that is essentially health insurance. Even opting out, those folks with a Lifeline policy will be carrying more coverage than minimum requirements in 40 other states. So yes, we feel confident that this is good coverage and that more people carrying that coverage, paying premiums into the system will keep rates down for everyone and also make sure that you're less likely to be hit by an uninsured driver. Thank you.
Any questions?
In the literature you've handed out here, it notes that if you have excellent credit and a DWI, your premiums are lower than if you have poor credit but no DWI. Can you speak to that?
You want to go ahead?
Go ahead, either way. Okay.
Yeah, that's accurate. I don't know what to say about that. So I will say the way that insurance companies determine premium rates is complicated, and we don't actually know all of the ways, all the things that they take into consideration. But there have been studies done comparing those things, and that is a reality. So if you have more money and better credit, you are going to have a better premium cost. Your cost is going to be lower than somebody who doesn't. And I think that's true fairly consistently across the board.
Do you want me to do some actual numbers?
Yeah, oh yeah. We'll bring in the numbers, lady.
So the study that's cited on the handout I think you're looking at is drawn from a study done by Consumer Reports a couple of years back. They did state-specific studies, so those are Minnesota-specific numbers, and they took a driver profile of a 35-year-old single woman driver with a perfect driving history, so no tickets and no accidents. And they took average quotes from the 10 biggest Minnesota insurers across the state, and they varied only that hypothetical person's credit score from excellent to good to poor. And those are the numbers you see there, where the person with a poor credit score is paying about 2.5 times as much as the person with an excellent credit score when they both have a perfect driving record. And then the fourth data point you see there is that single 35-year-old woman driver with a conviction for a DUI within the last 3 years, but excellent credit. And you can see on average, she's paying about $1,000 less per year than the person with a perfect driving record but poor credit. I will say Consumer Federation of America has also been looking at this issue and has collected quite a bit of data that's also not only state-specific, but we have zip code-specific data for Minnesota. And the proportion, the numbers have gone up since that study, but the proportion from poor credit to, or from excellent credit to poor credit has remained about the same, between about 2.5 to 3%, or 2.5 to 3 times as much is charged to folks with poor credit as with excellent credit if they have perfect driving records. And I can provide you with that data if you're interested.
How widespread of an issue do you think it is for drivers that are unable to afford insurance and, you know, are facing really high bills or, you know, being getting citations for not carrying insurance? How often do you think that happens?
Go ahead, you do the numbers, I'll do the feely parts afterwards.
Sure. Sure, there are about 4 million licensed drivers in Minnesota, and the most recent kind of national tracking on uninsured drivers is that Minnesota's rate is just under 10%, so that's about 400,000 uninsured drivers in Minnesota. But those most updated numbers are from a couple of years ago, and we do know that Minnesota average auto insurance rates in Minnesota went up 58% in 2024. That's compounding the 22% increase in 2023. So since that about 10% uninsured driving rate, we have seen an incredible increase in those rates that we know is pushing drivers out of the insured market. Most of those drivers realistically can't afford to stop driving and still earn an income and take care of their family. So we expect that the next time we have official numbers of the uninsured driving rate in Minnesota, it will be higher than 10%. And that's not different than the trend across the country. The Insurance Research Council has been tracking this closely. They show that uninsured driving rates across the country have been increasing since 2019 with no signs of that trend reversing. And they attribute that to a number of different factors, but one of the big ones is these very quickly increasing rates that push people out of the insured market. And it creates a kind of vicious cycle where increasing rates prices people out of the market, so folks drop their insurance, and that increases the uninsured driving rate. And we know that higher uninsured driving rates put upward pressure on premiums for everybody who's still insured because they're more likely to be hit by an uninsured driver and have to make a claim on their own policy. And then as that upward pressure on rates happens, that prices more people out of the market, and you see how it creates a vicious cycle. And the Lifeline program is really about reversing that cycle, turning it back in the other direction, where it creates access to an affordable insurance product for those drivers being priced out of the commercial market so that they continue to pay premiums into the system, they continue to maintain liability insurance, so they can meet their responsibility to other drivers on the road and keep premiums down for everyone.
And I do want to note, just for the record, because I think there is some question about like Metro versus Greater Minnesota. In the Metro, which I represent, we do have the benefit of having public transportation. And so even if there are more people here, it's going to disproportionately, these higher rates are disproportionately going to impact folks in Greater Minnesota because they have no other options. There is not an Uber that's going to get them to work. There is not a bus they can take to drop their kids off at daycare. The reality is they rely on their cars more than folks in the 7-county metro area. And so it is going to have a harsher impact on them. The other part of the cycle that I just want to address is the fact that the criminalization of poverty in this situation is really untenable. We heard from a wonderful speaker the other day who said that she was unable to afford her auto insurance. She had to decide between her auto insurance and paying rent. So she took out a credit card to be able to pay her auto insurance, which just creates this cycle of poverty where now she has a credit card that's out, her credit score is getting lower because she's unable to pay it off quickly, which means her rate of insurance is just deemed to get even higher. And so we really want to interrupt these cycles and try to provide an alternative for folks so that they can be safe and that we can be safe driving with them on the road.
Is there anything that can be done to require that insurance carriers base their rates more on a driver's record than on their socioeconomic status?
That is a fantastic question, and one that I would truly love to address. My understanding is that, was it Newton, Senator Newton, Jerry Newton, previously had brought a bill similar to that, saying insurance companies can only base their rates on these driving factors as opposed to these external factors that really have no bearing on how you drive and the safety of your driving. And it didn't go anywhere, and he brought it for years and years and years. I think the reality of that would be a complete overhaul of the insurance industry, and I think we would face even a steeper uphill climb for those changes than we do currently. But I do actually think it is necessary because, you know, even folks like me, or folks like Representative Norris, our insurance premiums are based on something other than how well we drive, right? The fact that you're not married, you might have you might have a higher premium than I do as a married person. And so that really isn't fair. And I get that it's based on actuarials and that it's very complicated, but I think when we look at the fairness of the system in which we live in, I think most Minnesotans would be appalled to hear about how their premiums are determined. And so I would love to see the insurance companies step up and try to change the way they do that.
Any other questions? All right, thank you so much.
Thanks for being here.
Let me just do one group photo with everybody at the end. That would be really great.